So yesterday we created a character, a nice background, but not an awful lot more than that. So what we want to do today is move the character, and we've kind of done this before, and what we want to avoid is this kind of really horrible clunky bit where the character can go between tiles and it just looks really messy. What you want to try and do is restrict the character's movement as much as you can without making it feel a bit like a PowerPoint show where you're just clicking buttons to progress movement. You want to give the player the illusion of freedom without actually giving them much freedom, because player freedom creates a whole load of issues with clipping, with bad collision detection, etc, etc. So we want to try and restrict but also make it feel like we're not. Complicated? Well, maybe not. We have done this before, and so I'm not going to spend too long on this. What I did in that video, I can't remember what it was. I think it was the Pac-Man video. Is we tried a whole load of other movement things first, and then we went to the one we actually wanted. I don't need to do that again because we've already seen that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a movement object. So like movement data, and this is gonna, or we should say player movement data really, and I'm probably just gonna say move, to try and keep it relatively small name. You don't really want these massive long names, it becomes irritating behind the scenes, right? Now the biggest values we need for this, I'm just going to add some alterable values, is the current x and the current y. So we need to know where they are at the moment. You might wonder why we're not adding this to the alterable value of the player object. The problem I have is that I probably want other things to be in the player object itself, and also I want to kind of group these alterable values so I know instantly where to go for all of the movement based ones, and then we've got the health based ones, then we've got the item based ones, and so it's easier and better, I think, to create separate objects for the player so that I can quickly go and find the alterable values. Because if I stored them all in the player alterable values, then we'll soon end up with this huge long list that I can't organise very well. The Clickteam does allow some organisation of it, and you can rename it and sort of reorder it. But I just find it so much better to just use an external object for all this stuff. So we want the current x and y, which at the moment is 0, 0. We want the destination of the x, so where we're looking at them going. And then we have this kind of like mini step, which is how close are they between the current x and y and the new x and y. And that's going to count down from 64 as they move across. Okay, so we're going to have to just say the keyboard. Now, remember that upon pressing a key, the action will only happen once. So if they click right and hold it down, it's only going to do one action. We want repeat while key pressed. And we're going to do the right key. And you could do WASD as well. I'm just going to use the cursor keys because it's a bit easier. And you could do an OR, so player could use either. Okay, so when the right arrow key is pressed, we want to move the player, and so what we're going to do is we're going to set an alterable value. So the destination x is the current value, so current x plus 1, and we're going to say that always the position, in fact I might do a different one because these always are to do with orders, And I might put this underneath actually. So always have the player, so select X coordinate, and I want the X coordinate to always be the destination, the current X times 64. I don't want to say times 64, do I? I want to say times the width of that. So times the width of that. And I want the Y, let's set that alterable value. Oh, set the position. If I wake up a bit, set the Y, and we're going to do the current Y alterable value of that, and the height of the grass. I probably could just keep saying width actually, because I'm not going to have tiles that are rectangular, so I could just keep that as width. Okay, and so the destination X is going to be increased. So what we want to say is if ever the destination X triple value, the destination X is different to the destination Y, or the current X, and we're just going to set it to it, right? So we're just going to say fine, set the current X to the destination X. And I know this seems like a really weird way of doing this, but obviously we're going to have some steps in between. So we're just going to test it, see whether it works. And the player has gone. So what have we done? Set X position to current X, which is 0. Oh, okay. Alright. So the X position needs to be plus half of the player object. Okay, yeah, I know what's happened. Because the hotspot is at the bottom middle, I'm just wondering whether to have the hotspot. I think I might just put the hotspot of the player at the top left as well, which is not ideal, but I think I'd rather have him have the hotspot the same as the tiles. And like these things really, like you start doing it and you go, actually that's going to be really annoying. So we'll have everything, there we are, and you can see he's appeared there. So if I'm going to click right, you can see he's shot off straight away, which is what we expect because it's continually happening. So let's restart it and just tap it. There we go. Perfect. Right, and that's happening because the destination X is having 1 added to the current X, but if it's ever any different, it's just going to let's just go completely set it, and that's it. It's just going to feed back to it straight away. And so because this happens every time the right arrow is pressed, so if you hold it down, or even if you press it a little bit too long, it's going to shoot twice, 3 times, 4 times. And so he shoots across the screen. So we don't actually want this bit here. What we want to do is set the step counter, and so we're just going to get rid of that, and we're going to say if it's different, set the step counter, the mini step, to 64. And we have to say, also we don't want that to happen if the step counter is currently working. In fact, we don't want an awful lot of this stuff to happen. So compared to an alterable value, so if the step counter, the mini step, is greater than 0, if it's equal to 0, then do it. And it's the same with the repeat while right arrow is pressed. We don't want the player to be able to control the character whilst the mini step is in action. I don't know why I've got a capital M for mini step. That's going to bother me. So let's change that. Try and it's got a lowercase m. That's really weird. It's Clickteam being all grammatical for some reason. The first word in the sentence is capitalized. That's really weird. That's not desirable at all. That's really strange. Anyway, okay, so we got set the mini step to 64. and then anytime the mini step is greater than 0, and we're going to insert, and we're going to do this every, I can't remember what we did last time, was it every 10 milliseconds or was it every 1? Let's try 1 and then let's work from there. We're going to take away 1 from the mini step, so alterable values, subtract from, did we take away 2 in the end or 3? Let's just do 1 for now. Take away 1 from the mini step. Okay, so what's happening here is when you click right, it will only happen once. So this will only happen once because the first thing it does is it'll add 1 to the destination. And actually what I could do is have the mini step happen here. So I can copy that, paste it here. So I could set the mini step at that point. So I can get rid of this. Don't know which is better really. So the mini step is set to 64. So this is not going to fire anymore because the mini step is greater than 0. So it's not equal to 0. So this doesn't go fire. Then we're going to have to deal with this bit in a second. Then anytime the mini step is greater than 0, subtract 1 from it every 1/100th of a second. So really quickly keeps subtracting 1 from it. So we want the X position to no longer be what it is here. We want it to be the player move data place times the 0 width of the grass plus the mini step. And let's see what that does. So click right. Interesting. Probably could have predicted that. Let's have a look at what's happening. So the current X, okay, so it's because it's the current X, so yeah, we would need it to be the destination X, don't we? That's right. And we need it to be minus the mini step. So we need it to get closer and closer to the mini step. Remember, you always work at where you're going to and you subtract from that. And that should be that. So click right. There we go. Now the problem is that when that's over, we need to update the destination X and the current X. We also don't want the player to overshoot, so we don't want the mini step to be less than 0. Although, yeah, so we need to have a condition here. We need to say, well, let's just cover our bases here. Actually, do we? Because we might want to work the other way by having negatives. So we probably want it always to work. So the problem is if you've got like if you're subtracting 3, because it's 64, 64 is not in the 3 times table, and so it will overshoot and it will go too far, and it's like a pixel too far, which is not ideal. Yeah, actually, let's just say is 3 a nice movement. I think 3 is quite a nice movement. So we want the mini step to never be able to, so if it's lower than 0, we want to set it to 0. Let's see what that's like. Might need to change that later. And we also need to say, well, if the mini step is 0, we could just drag one of these. So anytime the mini step is 0, it means that the movement is no longer needed. So what we need to do then is say, right, okay, so the current X now is equal to the destination X. So anytime the mini step has finished its little thing, then let's get the current X to the destination X. So that will allow you to move more than one. So 1, 2, 3, and I can hold it down, move as long as I want. The problem is the left. The left, we kind of want it to go the other way. And so I'm wondering whether I need like to have a direction. I think I might need to have a direction field in this. So we're going to have direction. And when the right arrow is pressed, the direction, so set alterable value, the direction will be, so we say 1. So direction is 1. And we only want this part here to happen when the direction is 1. So when they're moving right, that's fine. That works nicely, because when they're moving left, should I do it underneath? Yeah, why not? So when they're moving left, we want the same thing to happen. But if we do right as 1, up as 2, left as 3, so this time the destination edit, we want it -1 because we're moving left, and we want to set the mini step to -64, and instead of subtracting 1, we're going to add 1. So when you're moving left, I'm going to add 1. Or add 3. And let's see where we're at so far with that. So right movement is perfect, left movement does nothing at all. So what have I missed? The X position, that should work. So if the direction's 1, so let's just set this. Let's set this to the direction. Oops. Let's see where we're at. So 1 and 3. Okay, so that's going well. Alterable values, and let's have a look at the mini step. So you can see, yeah, that's working nicely. So that's just -64. So what we haven't done is, here we are. Mini step is less than, so it should be lower than 0. Okay, so we've got a bit of an issue there. So when I'm going right, that's perfect. When I go left, you see it's stuck on that 2 there. So we say this one here. We say when the direction is 3, so when you're going left and the mini step is greater, you've overshot, just set it to 0. Perfect. Nice easy movement there. And because each of these are single events, if you want to change the speed, you can do it here very easily. If you want to do a check first, so are they likely to go off the screen, you can do that all here. And so you've got really nice areas to check for collisions and things like that, just naturally in the code, which is really nice. So the next thing we need to do is do up and down, and we'll do that in tomorrow's episode. Hopefully move on a little bit further as well. So thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, click like. If you want to see more from us, click subscribe, and keep the comments coming in. This is a suggested video from one of the viewers. In fact, there's a few people who have suggested we go back to the RPGs. So these are your comments and your suggestions. We've already got, I think, a list of about 3 or 4 other ideas to cover down the line. So keep them coming in. I am listening, and hopefully we can cover all of them this year. So thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.